Yes, and here we are again with a new episode of Dance Jams. Today we are going to talk about a thing that has so much to do with dance creativity. And the title is Creativity Knows No Competition. And we never do that without my good colleague and friend, of course, Ton. Ton, are you there? Yes, Ton is there, but something went wrong. And there is Ton.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah, I
there I'm
didn't see him.
done.
There he is. So
That's
sorry.
technique. That's technique. And this will be also our next podcast technique, but not today.
Yeah,
Today we
not
speak about creativity knows
no
no,
competition.
yes, absolutely, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, why the title creativity knows no competition, right? If you are creative, then you are not directly competing with someone else. You're not trying
Yes,
to be the same as someone else.
because when it's a competition, you are under time pressure mostly, and you put a shorter duration. And because when you are under time pressure, you feel also pressure in your soul, in your body, and then the solution is then from the creativity more a challenge to reach.
Hmm.
So you need um, say quiet peace, you need rest in it, and it takes a certain amount of duration or time to come to a solution.
Yeah.
This is why it has no competition.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Yes. So it's all about creativity today. Let's see. Probably I need to adjust a little. Oh, there you are. So I changed the scene. Um, okay, creativity. Creativity has a lot of aspects, of course, and maybe we can decide what is creativity actually, Tom.
Creativity, you look for solutions, and actually, solutions this can be in every area. But now we look for the solution for dancing, and to be creative, you could do it like that if you have a dance training that you try to get more variation in the training. So you have to be creative in your training, because when you do always the same, your variation also inside your body has less solutions. So how more creative you are and how more you variate your training, how more your body is capable to doing new things.
So creativity has always to do with new.
Uh, yes, because when it exists, you don't have to look for something for solutions, because
Hmm.
then you can just follow it.
Okay, so creativity, you could say, that's looking at existing problems for new solutions. And a
Yeah.
problem is a very wide definition, right? It could be in, a certain, existing dance style that you just dance in a new way. It doesn't have to be only with dance, it can make a traditional dish in cooking and you just add some creative ingredients. So it doesn't have to be completely new, right?
No, no. And also the creativity is also from person to person different, because each person has different solutions and different pathways to the solutions. And but maybe the solution was already there, but you didn't saw it before. So that could be also a possibility. And yes, it's really creativity. It's really an interesting subject, Sean. When I will make a show, and each show I could have two ways to produce a show, a dance show. I could make it very systematic, and I have already preset questionnaire for to ask myself questions and follow the structure. But you could also do it very freely without any systematic, and just start with it, and you try to find solutions at the time, at the spot, at that moment. That would
Yeah,
be also possible.
yeah,
Possible.
yeah. Also think that creativity is also a matter of perspective, right? What
Yeah.
my students in the studio that I work mostly with think is
Hmm.
creative, you and I probably will see as that is already, not so creative. So depends a little bit in what world you live. The studio that I work often in is a social dance studio. Most people are not so exposed to a lot of dance forms and styles. So if you bring in something new, it could be creative for them, but it might be not so creative for us. So I often make a choreography for them,
Correct.
and they often think that is too far for them to kind of even imagine that they could dance such a thing. So I keep it a little bit more traditional but it is for them. So if they feel that they are very, expressive and creative, then that's good. That's good. It's
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. And this is what I try to do when I make shows.
Yeah,
And I would have a subject or a prop, like a curtain, I could say. I would look what you could do with it, with that curtain. You can stand on it, you can get under it, you can hit somebody with it. But the most creative way to use that one is how other people would not use it.
yeah,
So when I would kill somebody with it, that would be creative, but it's not so nice to do it. For an dance show to use it as a point, then it would be maybe creative. But when 100 people do the same and kill somebody with it, then I could say, okay, it's not so creative. But you look what you could do with a curtain, and yes, that's, but actually, creative, to be creative is a state of to be, how you are at that moment. And this is important. When you are very happy, you have different solutions than when you are very sad. And maybe when you are sad, you are with your thoughts in a different area to find the solutions. So it's also very important in which state of being you are at that
yeah.
moment.
Zeker, of course. Well, I mean, I'm both a writer and a choreographer, but I do most of my poetry writing in a state when I'm not so happy. I write,
Oh,
I
okay.
write, I write dark poems. My poems are
Hmm.
always about death and destruction. So
Hmm.
yeah, that doesn't mean that if you have dark thoughts, a lot of uh, poets have that. Huh? They write from a darker spot in their life. But yeah, dance is completely different. How that works, it could be, either way. There could be, um, yeah. I was choreographing the whole day yesterday, and I was in a very happy place.
Yeah.
And and it says certain flow. I don't know how that works for you, but I need to be in a certain. I have a very special way how I choreograph. I always have to find an entry point, and when I found the entry point, then it's like I unlock something that I didn't even know was there. But I
Yeah.
trust it now. I trust my creative process.
Yes.
Um,
Uh,
you know how that works
that's a
with you,
way of,
Tom.
of working.
Yeah.
This is a way of working, Sean.
Yeah.
And for me, is this differently? I work mostly, not
Hmm.
always,
Hmm.
systematic. So I have 50 questions,
Yeah.
and I start with the questions,
Yeah.
and like, what is the idea of the show?
Hmm.
Okay, say the idea would be green. I say something stupid, or pen or something. Then I go on a research what you can do with a pen, or
Hmm.
what you can do with green, with the color green. What atmosphere has green? Um, which story I would put behind green, etc. Which color I would take by green. So most people would probably take green as a creative choice then, because when the idea is green, then I take also the color green. But maybe you could put a different color and you have a different context to the show.
Mm-hmm.
That would be also possible. And then I will search my music, which genre have the music, because to be creative, and you want to be creative and you want to make the difference between other creative people, then you can put your unique stamp on it. So when I work very systematically, I do my research also on YouTube and other ones, and look what somebody else made already before. And but I don't want to look too long to it, because I don't want to get influenced also too much. And or I start totally empty in it, and that could be also, and everything what I have in my backpack from the history what I built up, I could also start from that one. And probably what I know is what also other people know, and then I make different choices in it, to look creative as a maker. But actually, you could be also creative. And now we take a totally different area to make a website. And if you make a website, you have also to be creative, and you also have a product at the end. And but if you not have so much experience, and this is the same like to start with choreography to make for your shows, then you need more hours to make, to get more creative, because it takes a time to develop that skill. And this is also important. It needs also, how you say, experience.
Yeah, that needs, but what I heard from you first, and I would, that's for me as well true, and we always like to hear other opinions too. When you go into a creative process like choreography, or even creating a website, you need to be intentionally creative, right? It's not only about waiting till inspiration strikes you, right? So I typically do the same. I listen if it's around a certain dance style, then I listen to the music a lot first. That's how I do it. I use the list from Dance Jams quite a bit, just to remind me of those questions, and then I look at YouTube, not to be the same, but it gives me a little bit inspiration, some to know exactly what I don't want, which is also a good thing to know. And then it starts, I mean, it's often because someone asked me to choreograph, right? If I would choreograph something that no one asked for, and I can do whatever I want, I'm curious what comes out of it too. But
Mhm.
most of the time, they say, "Hey, can you make a new dance?" Often in a competitive world. So then it has to fit within certain rules of where those people are going to compete. And I think it's pretty interesting to within those sets of rules to still be creative. I think
Yeah.
that within a set of
Yes.
rules, it doesn't have to be completely free for me. I mean, that's nice to do too, but within a set of rules, you can still be pretty
Yes.
creative, I would say.
Because when you have a choice,
Yeah.
then you choose. You have Then you have an option. Then you make your next choice. Then you have again an option. Then you get your next choice. That you get to the core of the existent point. Also important for dance, Sean. That's a different subject. Um, is the motoric creative of a dancer, because when you can variate and you learn a lot of skills like rolling on the floor or make um, somersault, or I don't know how you call this in English, but you make acrobatic uh, stuff. that needs to be also practiced. And if you know and you have the skills, you could put it on a different way how you would use it normally. If you
Of
would
course.
make a cartwheel in the gymnastic, it don't have to look the same like in the dancing. So this motoric skill, I would change and to be creative and make the cartwheel on a different way. That would be one. So come back to your point, what you said, to create a show, it needs a lot of questions um, and before you inside the structure to answer all these questions, it could be already quite challenging. So yes, this is working systematically, and you can work completely free. It's like you said in the Dutch podcast, and this is what I liked. You can see it like an architect. You start with a drawing and you follow exactly the drawing of the architect, or you start the house without any drawing, and at the end you have also a house. If it would be safe, I don't know, but um, the result would be you have a house there too. um, yes, so and in a practical way it happened also like that. And dancing, you can see it like the same. You can go systematic, and you make systematic a show with questions, and you give all answers on the questions, or you start totally free and you just start. The what is the advantage to start systematically is when I'm ill and I don't feel very well in my body, I still have a list and I can go through the list and then I come to a certain point. When I go completely free and I don't feel so very well with my body and in my mind at that moment, then I miss my calmness. And then I have to think more. But all my energy actually goes to my body and to my brain to get healthy. So, and when you have a list systematically, you can have an off day, but still you have a structure there. That is what I see as an advantage, as yeah,
Advantage.
advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, I've worked with your list. You can alter the list. You can be creative with the list too. By the way, it's a suggestion, and I think it's a great suggestion, and it gives you also some sort of a checklist. That if you make a show, that you think, okay, I can be creative with the lights, I can creative with the props, I can creative with the clothes, I can creative with so many things that you sometimes forget if you don't do that intentionally. So I always like the intention behind creativity. But it's absolutely true that you say you need to have also experience in creativity. And still, people will judge you because if they don't recognize it, they might say, "Oh, and that's also you have to be pretty strong if you are very creative to just not listen to that unless you think that's important to listen to people. uh, so it has creativity also has something to do with originality, and originality will not always be accepted by what we call the status quo, by the people who
That's
are judging it, the audience, or even the dancers you work with. And the more creative and original you are, the more you will have a discussion or sometimes a lot of pushback in people. I gave you, I think, in the Dutch podcast, the same thing. I gave you this example where one of these dancers was she started to cry. It was so creative. It was so out of her thinking pattern that emotionally she couldn't even handle it, which I thought was a very interesting. Not the first time that I've seen it, but we have seen, Ton, you and I both have seen people getting angry, people getting insulted because
yes.
they connect a certain movement with something that they know of. I mean, can you give that example? when you did yeah, when you did this movement.
Yes, yes. I did a show. My daughter is quite hard autistic, and sometimes she screams, but other people who are say make strange movements and strange, I would say, not the usual what we make normally, but I did something like that in my I put my hand in the face and then I put up and down, and make strange shoulder movement and head movements. And I told this the group to do that, and the interpretation of them was, you cannot do that because disabled people, to put them in the light like that, that's not done.
Yeah,
But this was not my meaning, but they
yeah,
had
the
their
associated.
thought.
Yeah,
Yes, they associated and interpreted that it would be like that,
yeah,
and they started to cry. And I was so in shock that they started to cry, and they didn't want to do it. So, but I was quite hard for them, and I said, "Okay, sorry, guys, we will do it. So you need to have a few weeks patient, and then everything will settle, and then it will be quite normal for yourself." So we did, and yes, they accepted. And I said, "Is it still strange for you?" No, no, it's quite normal for us now. But what I felt at that moment, they not go 100% for it, but for 90%. But I want actually 100%. Um, but when I would tell that to them, they would do it at that moment, because I said, you are not going full for that idea.
yeah,
And now it's everything okay. And people who work with me, yeah, for them, it's in the beginning, they have to use to it, Sean. Because if they, in the beginning, one couple of dancers, it's two dancers, came to me, a man and a woman, and they said, we have an idea to do abuse, physical abuse. Okay, I said, when we do it real. So when the man hit the girl or the woman, then he hit really with the flat hand in the face. And they were in shock because I didn't want to fake it. So I want to do it real. And when she abused him, she had also to hit him really in the face and very hard. They weren't shocked. But I said, if you fake it, it looks funny. If you do it real, you will shock people. And then the reaction of the, say, when you do it for competition and people will give a judgment about it, you will have people who will be against it and people who are for it, and they will like it. So, and it happened like that. People really, from 11 people, 5 or 6 people or 7, they were in shock. And the other people, they liked it very much because they said, this is real and this is authentic. But so what I felt now with idea, Sean, you have, when you are creative, you have people who are progressive and people who are conservative. And this is also one of the point. If you want to be very, very creative, then you will have, and you have a subject what nobody does at once, then you could have people who think in the conservative way, they are in shock, and the people who are progressive, they will accept it. So it's depending from the people who are perceive it.
yeah. Always. Yeah, I'm not so sure if it has to do with progressive, but I think it more is open-minded.
Yes,
Being open-minded
correct.
to things. Um, well, and then whether you judge that as creative is also up for debate, I would say. because would there be other creative ways to show, to demonstrate something about abuse?
Oh,
Then
yes.
just then, so there would be also, that's, just asking the question what it is, and then it come back to your other movement, where it looks like someone who is, with not a nice word in English, retarded. Huh? We call it retarded. That's not a nice word. But if I just look at from a gem point of view, I would just see a shaking head with a trembling hand in an organic way. Now, for a lot of people, this sounds like really new words, but that we just look at the movement, the association that you have with the movement is something way more from a feeling and emotional point of view. But if I just looked at you and you ask me what do you do, and then I ask, okay, what are you asking you the association with the movement or just the movement itself? It was just shaking your head and trembling your hand, and those two together created an association, and which is
Yeah.
basically what you do a lot in your show. You create association with the movements that you make. So therefore, the movement in itself is creative always when you make things. But I'm always very intrigued by how people link all kind of things to it, which is
Yeah.
basically up to them. It stimulates something, which is what we want to do.
Yes,
That's
absolutely,
the
Sean.
only
And
thing. That's the only thing, right?
yes,
Yeah,
to look to a creator
yeah.
or who is creative, it's the interpretation of the one who is perceiving
Hmm.
this information. That could be totally different from person to person. And yes, when it's what you said, if the idea touched them, then you reach already a lot, negative or positive. Madonna said that. I can remember a quote of her. Doesn't matter what they say about you. So when they talk about you, that's okay, negative or positive, doesn't matter.
Yeah, as long as they talk about you. Yeah, that's yeah, that's often used in PR, in public relations as well. That creates emotions. I think that is true for everything, even if it's just very stereotypical emotions. You still have to come from a place. You use the word authentic, right? And to fully be in that emotion. And that's maybe good for dancers to know as well. You don't always really have to have that emotion to express it in a creative way. You can put yourself in a state of love and you can kiss someone with so much passion. Um, but some people are shocked because it looks so real.
Yes.
That always amazed me. Think, wow, you always talk about the dance needs to be romantic, for instance, right? They always say that with the Roomba needs to be romantic. But if I would fully kiss someone, people would be shocked. Like, wow.
Yes, absolutely, Sean. I remember this president of football from the Spain national
Hmm.
football from the woman team
Yeah.
that he take and grab her head and put a kiss on. Yes, that was such a macho thing. So many people in the world were shocked that he did it. So they call it also abuse because yes, and now they want to put him in prison for 2.5 years because yes, so you can see how didn't think at that moment to kiss somebody full on the mouth. So he didn't know it would be. You could not imagine that he would ask, "Can I kiss you on the mouth? Is that allowed?" At that moment when he was in euphoric and he was so happy to do that. Very
Yeah.
strange. Maybe a strange example, but yes,
Well, it is an example of an emotional expression, whether it's appropriate or not. It's also defined by rules, and then
yes,
and everyone knows now with the podcast that I deal a lot with abuse, and of course there are rules in the world, and it's good that there are rules, right? If we could, if it doesn't matter what side of the road you would drive, that would be very creative, but it would also be very dangerous, right? But
Mhm.
I think what you and I often talk about in the podcast is how real are the rules that you have in your head, for instance, on a dance floor. How real are they? Did you made them up yourself, or is that truly a rule? And do you dare to play with it? And
Yes.
that's all that we ask. It's not like it's not. It has nothing to do with per se breaking the rules. It is now I remember. I mean, next month it will be Blackpool, which is a big dance competition in the ballroom world, maybe the most prestigious one. A 1 year Ton decided between the roles to between the rounds, and a dance competition goes with several rounds, and Ton decided between one round and the other. I think it was going to the quarter or the 16th. I remember. I can remember, but I remember you came on the floor with no hair,
Yes.
which
Bold like
was,
now.
yeah, both like now. Now everyone knows him like this with hair, which had nothing to do in essence with the way he danced, but the only thing people could talk about.
Was about that, yes, because all these people, when you have, say, 200 or 300 guys, no, and that round was the last 96. Um, they had all black hair, the most of them, 90%, and mostly the hair was very tight and sometimes also long. They wanted to look like a Latino, and I did the opposite. I wanted to be creative, so I put them all off, and they were in shock. Yes, and after 20 years or 25 years, they not remember what the result was, but they could remember that I
There
was
you go.
bold.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. So
Yes.
is that a good or a bad thing? That has nothing to do with good or bad. Creativity
No.
has very seldomly to do with specifically in an art form like dance. We're not. If you're looking for good and bad, you actually limit yourself already in your creativity.
Yes. If
If
you
you,
correct, Sean, if you look to Van Gogh, he lived 100 more than 100 years ago, and at that time he didn't sell any paintings of his work because he was not recognized, and the people thought it's quite strange. His art, it was not so realistic at that moment, so he had a totally different technique in that one. And when he died, his family sell the pictures, and then they get expensive, more expensive, more, and now there are millions worth. But 120 years ago, when he lived, or 120 years ago, then they didn't buy his pictures, his paintings, and that's quite strange, because now everybody, not everybody, but many people like his art. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. So it can change over time. Definitely. Um, So creativity. I mean, do you consider yourself as a creative person, Tom?
Absolutely. I'm every day busy with, how is that, to find solutions in my work. And that's the beauty of it. I make my own music. So when I look for music, I look which different touch I can give on the music. Um, this is very, very important for me. Look not only for, say, the pop music, but I look also maybe as a cover of it, that somebody else sing it, or I look for a cappella version or instrumental version, or I take the instrumental version and I will break it down, and then I use less and I will build it up. So I look for many solutions to make it different than other people.
Yeah.
And this people have to use also to that one. And yes, and I need also, you have two ways to do it. You can make your office quite proper and everything is systematic ordered, or now my office look like a paper there, a paper there, a paper over there, and I have about 20 websites open, and then I'm making notice on one sheet, and then I make notice about it. But everybody works different, Sean. Somebody, what I said, need a calmness, and they want to have a orderly office. Very correct. And the other one works disorderly and wants to have mess on the office. And but in both, you need calmness. If you don't have calmness and no space and time for it, or a particular duration, then you get under pressure, and this will not help the process. What could also help, Sean, that's another thing, that's working in a team. Maybe you could say something about that one: creative and to work in a team or
Yeah.
work alone.
Yeah, well, that could be a personal choice, but even I tend to rather choreograph on my own, to be honest. But that's mostly because think I'm used to that. So it's I think if you can stimulate first, like a brainstorming first, what you do, you come maybe on things that you never thought about before. So there is a it's a different creative process with a team, and I think if you've never done that in any creative form, I would definitely stimulate to do it, if only to challenge your own creativity. So, although I know from myself that, if I need to create, I go in my little cone and I put headsets on, and that's how I come up with the things that I come up with. But I do on purpose say, let's also create together. So I brought for this month, I brought a group of dancers together and say, be part of the creative process. But a lot of dancers start then to wait till I come up with a movement. And if
Ah,
I
okay.
and
Yes,
if I
I
give
know
them
that.
a if I give them a little concept to move, it's really creativity is something that can be taught and it can be learned, and I find that it is for the yeah that can be a quite challenging process for some people. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So that is a
absolutely.
team, but when we work together, I see people doing things, and they say, "Oh, that's probably not what you meant." I said, "No, never say that." Let it happen. Sometimes from a fall, something really great comes in, right? If people consider as a mistake, then they think, "Oh, that looks actually pretty good." So one of
Mm.
my teachers always said, sometimes the movement wants to tell you something. Do you listen to the movement in itself? So, but I personally need to say, hey, in a team, you can also give each other roles. If you say, hey, you want to give a creative team, you can actually give each other roles too. So you can also be very intentional with creating with a team. You can just be completely free and chaos, and everyone has their input, but you can also do that more structured. And structured
Yes.
is, for instance, what I say, we're going to explore this little concept for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, guys, just for the time, I'm going to make the decision. I give you two options and then we can. So that's what I mean. We give it a little bit more intention as well. So,
Yes, and I work with both. I like both. When I work for myself,
hmm
then I don't like to work for a team because I want go to the maximum and the most strangest thing what I could make up in my mind. I would want to make. And when I work in a team
hmm
for customized somebody, then it would be nice to have a small team, because when you have a too big team, you
okay.
will also not reach the point. So when you have five, six, seven people, then you can put your idea. But if you have your idea and somebody will speak also about the idea, And before you reach number seven, it takes a while, and then you start with number by yourself again when you had seven people. But if your team has a variation of a young girl, a old man, um, um, I would say a mother and a father, and very variated audience, an expert also in it, and then you come to a different solution. So when you would make it with two people, you have a different direction. If you have
Definitely.
10 people, your idea or your creativity get a different direction. So try to put that also in your consideration if you want to create something. And because how more people, how more influence, how more alone, you do it also alone.
Yeah,
So and sometimes it's also necessary to speak somebody and to have a partner where you can
totally agree. Yeah, totally agree.
yes.
Yeah, I do what I do. On the other hand, if I do it alone, I do ask feedback from other people, and that will influence the creative process too. So then I develop a piece myself. I ask for input, and so that's a little bit what worked for me. But hey, who knows, Tom? Believe it or not, people, we have dance jams now running for quite a few episodes.
More
But
than a half year every
more than a
week,
half year,
Sean.
more than a half year. But I realized, Tom, you and I have never created a real big piece, dance piece together.
No, we
Like
never did.
truly.
Yeah, we did one
Well, we
with
did one, but that
the
was more when
abuse
I
one.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, that was more when I was more the dancer, but not like creating,
No.
sitting together, creating for other people. Then, so that's that. I put that on my wish list to do.
Oh, okay, that
I
will be
want,
happen
I,
absolutely.
I wanna see how that works. We needed the Dance Jam podcast goes very spontaneous. I'm just curious how we how we would work together. Uh,
I come to Dallas to your
yeah, you
studio.
come to Dallas, I come to the Netherlands, or maybe we meet somewhere else around the
Yeah,
world, and we'll make a little piece. Whether we dance it together ourselves or whether it's for someone else,
yeah, yeah.
it's entirely yeah.
I you know what point I have also as an advantage as a
Hmm.
creator
Hmm.
to be creative. I can handle my own music. I can handle my own concepts. I can handle my own motoric creativity for on the floor, so make choreography, and I can make how you say an planning for the whole concept.
Yeah.
No, I what I understood, and I can make mood boards for the closings. What I understood, there are not so many choreographers who do that. So they make their own music, they make their own mood boards, they make their own script. That's also experience, Sean. And I like to work for television sometimes um, if they not put too much rules on what I must do. Because
Hmm.
when they put too much rules on me, then the creativity will be lost. And sometimes I must work inside a framework, but still, you told already before in the podcast, and still you could be creative in that one, but still you have an end producer who wants it like this and this and this. So also he has a history of some ideas how we want it.
Or a
And
boss. Yeah.
yeah, or boss what they expect, what they expect how it must look like. And if you are not work on their expectation, then it could be very disappointing sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like to think about it from if I think in the creative process, if it comes to producing something like dance, since that was my topic of study, I immediately default a little bit. Okay, what is the emotion, or what is or what are the feelings? They're not the same, by the way. Or what are the thoughts or the narrative that I would like to express? And then I look for ways in the movement that is a little bit more innovative, right? And it could be linking a different movement to a different type of emotion. But I do think a little bit about the audience that the show is for, and very often that for us is a they come for general mellow entertainment. So I do take that in account, what that is. And then if time and if money would allow it, then I might even go to see if there are really what we call uncharted territories that no one has done, for
Yes.
instance. And I'm working on a piece now when what in the studio is at least no one has done, because we made a podcast around stereotypes, and I would love to make it things where we just, I mean, not to shock, but to let people a little bit think how often we are in in the stereotypes. So that's what I like, or experiment, maybe doing maybe completely different style that they haven't seen as well. That's always what I have a little bit in my mind, Tom. I don't know how you have that, but
Yes, I have that also.
yeah,
Maybe to make it weird, and doesn't make sense when you make it. But I want to have some kind of a little bit of weirdness in it,
yeah,
and that
I know that with you.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yes, that's, and you feel also people from the outside that they need sometimes time to use to it, and people in the business sometimes they're not accepted because they said it's too weird, it's not in the framework how we do it normally. But when people look from the outside, say from a totally different country, and they're not working in this dance form, in this framework, they say, wow, it's so different what I see normally, I like it a lot, because the rest I don't look anymore to it because it's too much of the same for many years. But when I look to your concepts, that's incredible. So it's also where you are influenced with in the past, that's what you used to eat. It's like eating new food or food what you never eat before. That's also, it needs time to use to it. It's the same with music. When you listen to music and there is a new song, it needs sometimes time to use to that song, and then you remember, oh, at that time I didn't like it at all, but now it's
no,
a
I do.
great song and one of my favorites.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. So it's moving the scale. That doesn't mean that within that, and I know that just because you said it before the show, that doesn't mean that you cannot value the things that are coming from traditions.
mhm,
But you try to bring the tradition maybe in a new way, right? So it doesn't have to be shockingly completely 180 degrees the the another thing. It just could be just creative in the nuances. Um,
mhm,
so um, so I think that's what it is, Don. We are at the end of an hour talking about creativity again.
yes,
I think it's one of the largest topics in an art form like dance,
yes,
and that could be you could translate it to so many things. In the Dutch podcast, we also talked a little bit about the development of
yes,
creativity in the human being. We didn't do that so much today.
yes,
But anyhow, so I would say we need to come back to this topic.
yes,
Uh,
absolutely, Sean. And
mhm.
what I want to say as the last word, think about out of the box and take action. That's also really important.
Yeah,
If you're not action oriented, then nothing will happen also.
yeah,
And what also important is what, why, what, and the how questions to tackle a certain issue and to find a solution for that one. So creativity is important, to be open and feed each other. That's really
open
important to
minded.
come to a certain result of what you want to express at the end on the dance floor, motoric wise and also mental wise. You need some space and time for it. So,
Oh yeah,
Sean,
yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. It's knowing your own box, right? Know your own thinking that helps, and try to get out of your own box first. Maybe thinking out of the box, and then it's an exciting process. I think it's exciting. It's exciting to
absolutely, and
uh,
fun, and
fun,
fun.
exciting, stimulating. It helps for self growth. By the way, it is amazing. We'll come back maybe also on the mental aspects of what it is to be creative.
Yes,
So many things that we have mentioned that we didn't talk about. So let's do that the next time, Ton. I'll see you in our next episode. We have another topic. Of course, with Dance Jams, it's a podcast from a different perspective, and then I'll hope to see and hear you next time, Tom, and our listeners too, of course, and viewers. Thank you so much for being with us every week with
yes,
Dance Gems. I'm
yeah.
going
See
to
you
start.
next time, or
Going to
listen to it next time.
Yeah, listen to you next time. I'll start the music and I'll tell people where they can listen and see us, and then uh, I'll say bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yes, this was creativity knows no competition, right? The topic creativity is quite broad. I hope we gave you some new ideas and creative insights into this topic. This is Dance Jams. So you can find us at Spotify, dance.jams. You can also find us on our YouTube channel at Ton Greten /podcast. And then, of course, on our own website, jam.dance /podcast and in Apple and what have you not, right? And with that, we say bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.